episode of RRX Podcast. My name is Frank, and can I get my co-host to introduce herself?
Hey, this is Matt.
All right. So, for today's topic, we're going to talk about narcissistic behavior or traits within black men and black women. Okay, narcissistic behavior or traits within black men and black women. Now, I wanted to kind of use this episode to be able to talk about two particular people. Okay, both people recently been in the media, where I wanted to kind of use examples such as Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, in addition to using examples such as Kevin Samuels. Now, God rest the dead, you know what I'm saying? When it comes down to his passing, what may have you. Um, this video will not be used to bash specifically um, as far as insulting or saying, that these two people have, done certain things when it comes down to their behavior as far as their platforms, what may have you. When it comes down to, Jada Pinkett as far as Red Table Talk, and then when it comes down to Saul Williams, when it comes down to YouTube, and then all of his social media platforms. This will not be that video. However, this video will examine, certain details when it comes down to narcissistic traits or behaviors that black men or black women do in their own ways in reference to one, interactions with one another, and two, how we end up seeing one another. Okay? Interactions with one another, and two, how we end up seeing one another. All right? Now, let's go ahead and get to it. So, one of the things that I've done is I've pulled up, and this will be something that I will actually, link in the bio when it comes down to the video, YouTube video. I've pulled up a article. The article says 7 tactics narcissists use to escape responsibility. Okay, 7 tactics narcissists use to escape responsibility. And I want to kind of go down the list when it comes down to these particular tactics, and also talk about a few other things as far as certain things that Mr. Kevin Samuels has said, in addition to talking about certain behaviors and certain things that Jada has said, okay, that we obviously know. Um, so I'm gonna kind of, skim through, kind of read briefly, the beginning of the article, but then also skim through the 7 particular traits. So the article reads, narcissists will gladly be responsible for the things they deem worthy, especially when it provides an opportunity to be the center of attention. However, when others place responsibility on the narcissist sees this as an attempt to control them. Okay? This violates one of their personal mantras: no one will have power over them, or no one will have power over me. Let's just say I'm a narcissist, you know what I'm saying? Narcissists have, a very overly inflated sense of self. They can do no wrong. They can, not be wrong on anything. They are perfect as they are. There's no room for improvement when it comes down to a narcissist, and this is one of the
Yeah.
reasons why uh, when it comes down to NPD, or narcissistic personality disorder, which is actually
Right.
a diagnosable, I'll say, trait or diagnosable condition or disease, within the DSM, or Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, that essentially is the Bible, or, the Bible of psychologists and psychiatrists, right? So this is actually in there, um, where that overly inflated sense of self will push them to do anything to, one, take it back into the being center of attention, And two, make sure anyone who goes up against them as far as their toxic behavior is either quelled or destroyed in various ways. Okay? And there are many different ways they, end up doing this. Let's go through the seven. So you have number one, which is to intimidate or to blame. To intimidate or to blame. Number two, to excuse or project. To excuse or project. Okay? Number three is to argue or exhaust. To argue or exhaust. Number four is to deny or rewrite. To deny or rewrite. Number five is to divert or to attack. To divert or to attack. Number six is to impose fear, where you're imposing fear, or to completely avoid the situation. To impose fear or to completely avoid. And number seven, for the last one, is to rescue or recruit. To rescue or recruit. Okay? So, let me go ahead and kind of read some of the particular quotes that Kevin Samuels, has said with pretty much one of the biggest quotes he said, I believe the beginning of this year, let alone it was a little bit a while ago, where I'm gonna just kind of go through it. One of his quotes, prominent quotes that specifically was directed or targeted toward Black women, but more or less all women as a whole, as far as talking about the modern woman specifically. He says, and I quote, "If you have made it to 35 and you are unmarried, you are a leftover woman." If you have made it to 35 and you are unmarried, I know you're triggered, and you are unmarried, you are a leftover woman, okay? Now, he continues to say, "You are what is left. Men know that there is likely something wrong with you, whether you want to hear it or not. I'm going to go there with you. I'm telling you the truth that you don't want to hear. Men know that there is likely something wrong with you, that you cannot be an adjustable 6 or higher. Something is wrong with you."
Okay.
Let me finish. That's where men automatically come with it. And here's the thing: when you were between the ages of 22 and 25, you didn't want to settle. You were trying to get the CEO, the pilot, the investor banker. You were trying to get flued in or flown out. All right. So, what are your thoughts first? What are your thoughts first on, what are your thoughts first on the particular traits? When it comes down to the particular traits. And let me ask, do you believe, based on this quote, based on what I've just read, when it comes down to what, Kevin Samuel has said out of his mouth, do you believe that any of these traits fit into what he is projecting within his quote?
Absolutely.
Okay, share. So we have a conversation.
No, I do. Okay. That whole thing just put me in a different. I should have had a drink. Because right now I am like not in that. Kevin Samuels had power.
He did.
I mean, I hate to say that, but he is an example, prime example of someone who, he had power of the tongue, and there are people he had a very big following base,
Yep.
and not just we're not talking about free followers, like we're talking about people who paid. I've watched even myself. I never paid, but I have watched some of his free videos before
Right.
he transitioned
Mm-hmm.
and passed, and everything I can honestly say, at least from me watching it, I did not disagree with everything he said, right?
Right.
But there is a lot of it where I was like, some of it was like divided, and I had to really compartmentalize what he would say in order for
Mm-hmm.
me to still listen and stay engaged in it, because what you just read just took me out the box. Now, had he started off a conversation like that, I would have been like, like I can't, like I just can't. But then it comes to the point where you're like, well, let me just find out why he thinks this or why he believes this. So you continue listening to it. So there are women and men. He has a big
Follow.
following
Yeah.
that really. I even saw a woman one time on the live
Mm-hmm.
streaming where she said that she's glad that she kept listening to his videos um what happened because he helped her get a husband.
Yeah.
That's what so I would never say, his advice, some of his advice, or some whatever he said is not all true. I really think it applies to who it applies to. And if you have the stomach for it, okay, go ahead, be my guest. But I just don't agree with enough of it. And I don't, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
there's someone,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. So, I think one of the biggest things is so when it comes down to Kevin Samuels, I believe there is a lot of truth in what he is saying. In addition to his unapologetic honesty with both men and women, because he actually had a good amount of men followers prior to him having a good amount of women followers. Okay, where in the very beginning, during the time he was doing a lot of live chats with a lot of men to be able to help a lot of men in reference to, helping them to be able to improve themselves, where he was following within him being, that image consultant that, he was. My thing is that he, at this point in time in history, he found his niche of being able to say brutal honesty about various things that oftentimes is ignored by modern media, modern society. Now, does he end up saying a lot of stuff that, needs to be said? That's up to, an individual person to believe that. Now, is he saying a lot of stuff that is relevant in the sense of things that are not being looked at or listened to? Absolutely. Does he at times take an approach that is not palatable to women who have not been used to brutal honesty from a man, let alone the dynamic of brutal honesty from a black man to a black woman, because of the forced matriarchy that the black community is in because of historical facts? I believe that is the case. Can at times he be rude when it comes down to him being on his own platform? Yes, he can. Now, is he end up more often than not, end up taking a place of being rude because he's been, treated rudely first? And this is from me seeing some of his episodes. Yeah. Where my thing is, you have a lot of women who end up calling in to get advice from this man. And some of these women who end up calling in, first off, a good amount of them, not all of them though, because you have those few, a good amount of them, they're more so calling in to get attention. They're not calling in because they're trying to gain advice to make a change. They're calling in to gain attention, meaning they're not there to listen to what he has to say. They're not there to be able to take in what he's talking about when it comes down to details. They're there to just get views. You know?
I agree.
However, one of the biggest things that often happens in the scope of platforms similar to Kevin Samuels. And the reason why I say platforms similar to Kevin Samuels is because Kevin Samuels is not the only one that's doing this. You know, or he wasn't the only one that was doing it, or isn't the only one that is doing it. You know, where you have other platforms where, and you know, I have never seen Kevin Samuels specifically talk about him being a part of Red Pill, but he has mentioned Red Pill before in the scope of how the Red Pill community, or for that matter, also called the Manosphere, the Red Pill community is needed to be able to counteract the feminist community, modern feminism. Okay? Here's my thing. I'm going to just put it in this perspective. When it comes down to the Manosphere and feminism, oftentimes it can be conveyed as two sides of the same coin. But you have Red Pill that input themselves in the Manosphere, whereas the Manosphere more so is from the perspective of, well, men should be valued too. Versus the spectrum of feminism where it says women should be equal to. And then you have the dynamic of what would be considered vices or lack of character traits that both men and women can end up exuding in the scope of not treating themselves of a higher value that is not tied to a characteristic, but is tied to a character trait. Where characteristics are how much money you're making, what degrees you have, you know what I'm saying? What job position you have specifically. Character traits gets into the why. Why do you have this career? Why are you doing this? Why do you think this way? Why do you believe in certain principles in life when it comes down to how you treat others compared to how others treat you? Where if you are only focusing on characteristics of what is the product of what should be from your character, then you're not really fully developing character. You are leaving to the wayside being able to build character and only going for characteristics that inevitably will put you in a disposition of only seeing value in things that are tangibly attainable. Where character goes into the intangibles that reinforces how you act, how you treat others, how you interact with others, so on and so forth. However, going back to the aspect of narcissism, narcissistic traits, oftentimes, and this is one thing I'm going to say is going to be controversial. One thing I'm going to say is oftentimes, and it's both on the spectrum of the manosphere and feminism. Oftentimes, people, men or women, depending on either side that they're on, have to end up exuding or using narcissistic traits to make a point, and hopefully exuding that narcissistic trait with making a point doesn't reinforce toxic behavior. Hopefully it's only used as a means to be able to see what is actually going on in the scope of someone being treated unfairly, someone being devalued, or someone not being treated as equal. However, I would say definitely our brother Kevin Samuels use certain tactics in reference to putting certain levels of blame on the women for their behavior, which I'm back and forth on agreeing with it and disagreeing with it, especially how it was conveyed, you know? But also in turn, I also understand. Everything that you probably try to say out of good intent will not be met with open ears. And then sometimes you have to be a little rude to get the point across to now shockingly open ears, because most people can only listen to negativity, which I believe has been the base of him being able to gain more followers, because people latch on to negativity like bees to honey. However, a good amount of the stuff that he would say definitely is valid. But a lot of people don't like holding themselves individually accountable for their own actions. And I say both men and women. What you think? I can't hear you.
Sorry, I had to step off to receive an Amazon package for my baby,
Okay.
for my dog, for her blanket. Second of all, I heard the second half of what you were saying, but I think a lot of what I agree with some of it, and then there's some that I disagree with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I agree. Kevin Samuels, his approach to me was just whack. Can't find another word for that. It was just whack.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But there were some things that he did speak about that were factual. Like, for example, and it was a lot of women and people, mostly women, that just had feedback for him because of how he conveyed certain things. Was it true? Sometimes it was true. For example, there was an episode that I watched where he was talking to a woman and she was asking him a question. And she was basically asking him a relationship question about why I guess she could not. She never said that she couldn't find a man. She said something to the effect that she was single, and I guess he took that and he ran with it as to say, so you're single, so you're looking for a man, or so you should have one. Like, he kind of set that expectation during the call, and I was like, that's not what she asked. So to me, like, it was that whole assumption piece there. That's what. But anyway, then it got down to the question where he took control over the conversation. He did this very frequently. I personally think he had some control issues over women in general, not just on his platform. But if you really watched and listened to him, he really talked. He felt strongly about women and Black women, but I mean, women in general. When it came to being submissive, he was very much on the women should be submissive, side. But she asked this question, and he basically said to her, "This is not funny." He basically said to her, it had nothing to do with what she was asking. He totally changed the entire subject and said, "How much do you weigh?" And of course, that's going to flip any woman out. I mean, I think so. It's definitely going to flip out a woman who's overweight. That's just
Yeah,
natural.
I would say that more
Because
so.
you're
It would,
overweight, right?
for a woman who's overweight,
Right.
it would flip them out, because that's one of the things that he understands, that women who are overweight or who consider themselves to be overweight will not talk about. They don't want to have that conversation.
Right.
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right. So he said, "How much do you weigh?" And she said, "That's not what I'm, asking you." And he said, "Well, I'm asking you." When he said that, I said, that's when I think, in my mind, she should have made a choice about whether she was going to answer that question or not. Because at this point, he has control. He's trying to take control of the conversation. And it's his platform. He's going to get the last word anyway. It doesn't matter. but you can choose to answer or not. Why these women answer these questions is beyond me. But anyway, she said she told him it's her weight. I don't remember what it was, but I do remember that him saying, "You're the same size as a linebacker. Do you believe?" That's what he said to her. He said, "Do you believe that a man deserves," or something like that, or something to that effect. I wish I knew exactly what he said, but that's what he said. And she said, "I'm not the same size of a linebacker." Kevin Samuels pulls up this picture or something of a Miami Dolphin linebacker, and then the same weight, or something close to it. And I was like, I can't do it no more. I can't do it. I can't do it no more. And she was just silent. And I was like, why did you answer that question, lady? Why did you run into that question? And the thing was like, yeah, you're okay. Yeah, I'm the same size of a linebacker. But why does that? In my head, I was like, I can't with this man. I can't with this man. So in that instance, was he telling a lie? Absolutely not. He was telling the truth. She was the actual. He even had supporting factual information that they were the same size. So that's not something that you can dispute. So there are times where you have to really. I think when you're talking about narcissism and being narcissistic, he, yes, I think he was even on his platform, like for example with that. But I think that some people who called in, um, were not prepared. I really mean they were not prepared to answer those questions. They were not prepared to hold themselves accountable. They were not. They were just not prepared. One trait of narcissism that I think I could be wrong, but I think is narcissistic personality disorder. I think it's identity disturbance or something like that. In that question, I feel like in a lot of his talks, or his live talks with other people, specifically women, there were a lot of that. Like, he telling you about yourself. You keep answering these questions. It's like they were digging a hole. It's like he started the hole. They just kind of dug themselves right on in it. And I was like, come on. And it got to a point where they couldn't get themselves out. And I was like, you are drowning in this hole. I felt like the women who really, really wanted help, that called in for help, and who were willing, no, who were prepared and like who knew what they wanted, and they were in some of those situations that he described. Like for instance, he described a situation where if you're the baby mama, I disagree with this honestly, but I understood where he was coming from. He basically said if you're a woman that's unmarried and you got all these kids by some other man and you want a man, no, and you're looking for a man, but that's unfair to the to the new man because you should have worked it out with your baby daddy. That's basically what he said. And one of the responses to that was that she said, "Well, you don't know my story, before, why we're not together." And so that's why I'm like, I gotta tread the fence. While I understand what he's saying, you have no idea what happened. And she went on to this whole thing about how they, went through their stuff. And I think he used to beat her. And then he went into this thing of, well, did you not see the sign? Did you not see the sign? He was basically telling her, you need to go back and work that out. And I was like, come on now, I don't agree with that. And so, but again, that's a situation where it's like, did you see the sign? It's a situation like, come on, identity disturbance.
I think one of the
and
biggest.
I'm not, ladies. I'm on the right side. I'm not on Kevin Samuel's side. Well, no, I'm not gonna say that. I'm on the side I'm on. I'll say that. I'm not on either side.
I just think.
I'm just stating
I think
the facts.
I believe when it comes down
But
to a
he
lot
was
of the stuff.
narcissistic. If that's true, he was narcissistic.
He obviously he does have narcissistic traits. He does.
Yeah.
One of the particular things, when it comes down to using the tactic of blame or using the trait of blame to, bully someone into holding themselves accountable. I can definitely say that. However, there aren't too many platforms in reference to, and this is one of the reasons why he was so fucking popular. There aren't too many platforms in the scope of foundationally holding westernized women accountable for their behavior. There aren't. Like, let's really think about this here. You know, there are, and mind you, I'm not saying this in the scope of, well, you know, westernized women have it good. I definitely will say westernized women have it better than women in the Middle East. I'll definitely say that. You know, when it comes down to living their lives how they want to, right? However, it becomes this thing where when you are left to your own devices, when you're left to certain things of indulgence, and this is not just men, or this is not just women, it's men too. However, women respond to overindulgence in different ways. When you're left to your own devices, to your own vices, when you're left to a sense of overindulgence, when you're left to an overly inflated sense of ego, when you're left to having a mindset of entitlement and believing that you deserve certain things without putting any work in, what happens? What happens? You know, there are men out there that have a sense of entitlement and believing they should just gain certain things and not do anything for it. But most of those men don't make it or aren't successful in life because they don't bring any value. And that's...
I'll take it a step further and say those are the men in most cases that end up with some of these leftover women, and we can touch on that later. But I just want to go ahead and put that on out there.
And you know what? I'm a piggyback off of that. Now, with those men being with those leftover women, why would those women who have a mindset of genuinely believing they deserve better be with those leftover men when they are saying but really don't believe or not acting out, going for the man that is top 10%? You see what I'm saying? Like, it's one thing we can acknowledge. We can definitely acknowledge that when it came down to Kevin Samuels saying certain things, of course, blame tactics, you know what I'm saying? Different tactics in reference to narcissistic traits. Of course. However, who will listen to him in the scope of the further content that he ends up using? And he uses those narcissistic traits to package the content that inevitably ends up coming to us anyway. Because you still, and I'm going to put it to do a kind of the back and forth, manosphere over here, feminism over here. Not every feminist is going to say things in a nice way to a man that is exuding misogyny. Just the same as not every man in the manosphere or not every man who's red pill are going to say things in the scope of, you know, letting a woman know men are getting fed up. You have men overwhelmingly are not wanting to get married because you know, especially in the United States, more specifically in the United States, based on various aspects and based on more so when it comes down to marriage court, it benefits the woman in an overwhelming majority for a woman to get divorced than for a man to get divorced. Not unless a prenup is signed. Okay? Now, we can go into details of why that is when it comes down to various things that have happened historically, you know, why, you know, feminism or why the women's liberation movement came to be. We can go on all that. However, we still have modern feminism and we have the manosphere now. And this is what they're doing. it's all men that are to blame. It's toxic women that are to blame. Where is the middle ground? Where is the middle ground when it comes down to holding both men and women accountable for toxic behavior, period? You know, in the scope of how they're able to use their toxic behavior in modern society, in how women are seen and how men are seen. Can we hold men and women accountable for their behavior? Or does it always have to be packaged where the feminist has to pretty much say all men ain't shit, and then a man who's red pill will have to say, well, you do have a good amount of toxic women out here who are a bunch of B words.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's often having to package a message with negativity for someone to even absorb any of it. And then through the trauma of absorbing it, you eventually get to a point in your life where now all of a sudden you're confronted with the thing you had to encounter a long time ago, but you decided not to because you were in your overly inflated sense of ego and you were in the scope of entitlement and believing you deserve certain things that you didn't work for.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
What you think?
I definitely agree with not deserving things that you didn't work for. I mean, I do, and I do because for personal reasons. For one, I'm in that percentile of leftover women, right? So, because I'm not married and I'm
I don't
36.
believe that. I don't believe.
So,
I
no,
don't.
no, I'm just
Yeah.
saying it for the sake of this here, for the sake of
Yeah.
of what he said.
Right.
I'm in that number. I'm in that group, right?
Right.
So I think that I just don't think that when he said what he said, he considered all the facts. That was my issue with Kevin.
Yeah.
I was like, I really understand both sides to some degree, but I can't get with the fact that he's not considering all the facts. He's just, it was, to me, it was very one-sided. That's what I did not like. It was very much, no, this is why your life is not going the way you want it to go. This is why you don't have a.
Could he be placing himself on that one side because of the women who go on his because of the women who go on his platform that inevitably end up more or less speaking on deserving a high value man? Could he be doing it because of that?
Maybe, but you also take into account that say Kevin Samuels was an image was it image consultant?
Right.
He was also, you know what I mean? So he was very much about
About
the image. He was
how
very
you
much
look.
about, yeah. It was very okay, and that within itself is traits of narcissistic behavior.
I mean, let's be
Right?
real about it. Vanity is for everybody to use. You know, we have overwhelmingly, when it comes down to, I mean, let's be real about this. When it comes down to makeup, when it comes down to hair, when it comes down to plastic surgery, which is on both men and women's side. You know, makeup, depending on what particular community you're a part of. But like it on an overwhelming level, a lot of people buy in to sex, the concept of sex, being sexy. You know what I'm saying? Making sure that you look good. You know what I'm saying? Like fitness. You know, I'm gonna be real about it. I'm going to be working out until, I kick the bucket. Why? Being real about it, I want to look good in the bedroom when it comes down to me and my wife. In addition to the fact that chemically, when it comes down to the man's body, the more you work out, the more you are able to attain a high level of testosterone longer. Which also helps with, because you got men out there who, let's be real about it, can't get it up. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is.
Erectile dysfunction.
Yeah, ED. You know what I'm saying? They can't get it up. But a lot of the reasons why They can't get up. They haven't been able to pinpoint. You're doing things that inevitably you're not being as active as you should be. You know?
Yeah.
Same thing with women, but a little different. Where your estrogen levels are being compromised when you end up doing certain things in a sense of continually being alone on doing various things that are not necessarily healthy for you. You know, it's the same shit. However, it's a little different on both sides. Where I gotta, I as a man have to have as many men that I could give to my woman as possible. So we could, have these babies. Same thing, as a woman, you have to be able to maintain your pH balance to make sure them eggs are good. Where going back to the concept of value, men have to create our value. But then you have a good amount of women that are leaving the notion that they have intrinsic value. They're leaving it because they want to have careers. They want to have all the things that men have to try to force a sense of equality with men, when in actuality they're still seeing men on the same level and the standards of hypergamy. You end up making more as a woman, but now that means you want your man to make more than you. And you probably make $100,000 a year. That means you're now forcing yourself in a bracket where most of the men that probably, and being real about it, most of the men probably that you qualify for in the scope of character are probably within the 50,000, 60,000 bracket. But the men that you feel like you deserve are above 100,000, which are a part of the 10% that don't want you. Talking about hypergamy specifically, but that's also a conversation where it's just like, well, a man should be valuing me for my career path. That shows you don't ask men what they value in women.
I think as a whole,
we don't value one another.
No, they don't. And I think here's the thing. I don't think that they don't value one another. I think that the value needs a new definition. That's what I think. I think that what they value is just too. It's not even materialistic. It's just, I wouldn't even say that or superficial. I would just say it's just, I just think maybe because I'm a hopeless romantic, and that may be why I'm in that leftover crew. So all y'all hopeless romantics out there, we need to get into the other crew because we left over like shit out here. Anyway, no, seriously. I think that the value needs to be, I don't know, like redefined. I never ever thought that you should value a man off of about how much money he makes or what his income is. Yes, it's important. Yes, you do need some substantial and concrete, income to be able to live and be comfortable. But I don't think I never and here's why I say that. You have women out there who are making good money. And you have men out there who are making good money. You have women out there. You have women out there who are making good money can mean whatever, higher than whatever you're making. So I'm a very general person. So I can't say good money is 50, 60, 70, 80, $90,000 a year, right? Because if you're making more than that, then you probably think you're making great money. You probably are. I think it just depends on your lifestyle, where you live.
Good money location. Is how you use it. Good money absolutely. Is how you use that money.
Absolutely. And I say that because um, I know somebody who works at FedEx. Okay, it's a woman who works at FedEx that I see all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we all know. I mean, FedEx worker. She's a delivery worker, and I don't. I think her husband works some, like a blue collar job. I'm not really sure what exactly he does. Anyway, their third child just graduated from school. They didn't get scholarships. Their daddy paid for that, and the youngest one is going to grad school.
Mm-hmm.
Was he a high value man when she met him? To her, he was. To her, he was. And I think every time I see their marriage, I fall in love with it. And I've never even met this man. It's just the way that she speaks highly of him and the way that she speaks highly of her family
Yeah.
and of her daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it. And I'm like, girl, I'm trying to get a little bit, a little bit to where you are. But I'm not there yet, and that's okay. But what I'm trying to say is that she did not, had she based what he had or who he was off of whether or not she should have given him a chance or not, she could have easily ended up with somebody else that wouldn't have, done the half of what he's doing now. She has a hardworking man who financially supports her house. I don't know what he's bringing in, but whatever he's bringing in is good enough for her and her three kids that they have raised in their house that they've owned for years. It has put their kids through college. It has supported her, and she works too. So it's not just one sided. She also has a job. Not only does she have a job, she has a
Mm-hmm.
hardworking job. This woman is a small woman working at FedEx delivering packages. That's a hard that's a
Mm-hmm.
hard job. I just feel like because when I see women, and maybe I'm in this bracket again, maybe because of this woman in this bracket, but I feel like when I have heard women, I have heard it. So I'm not. This is not something I just seen on TV or seen on Kevin Samuel's show. I
Mm-hmm.
mean his podcast. I have heard women with my own ears in college say, and in my family, somehow. Okay. Anyway, say that they want something, or they want traits, or they want something that they don't have,
Oh.
right? And it bothers me this much, and I say this much because I think in all of us, it's a little bit of like, yeah, I want this person to have a little bit more than me, or something. But when I say that, I mean they want them to have something extreme. Like for example, I heard a girl say that she wanted. I know somebody who broke up a relationship because she felt like the other person was not going to be able to provide for them because they were living paycheck to paycheck. And this person I know did not. She was. I can't say that she did, but she was working in the restaurant industry. I'll say that. It wasn't a manager position, wasn't like anything. And when she said it, I was like, that's really fucked up. I don't know what to
Selfish.
say. She
Selfish.
basically told the other person, if you think that I want to live my life, living paycheck to paycheck, I don't. Bill 40, no, she said 40 or $50,000 a year is not enough for me. I don't think that's fair because all you're bringing home are tips. And that's what I'm gonna say about that. All she was, and when that happened, I was like, I just,
That just shows,
for the
and I'm
sake,
gonna just be real about it. I'm gonna just speak on it. 40, $50,000 a year is more cases what the average man makes
yeah,
around the ages between 35 and 45.
yeah,
Now, here's the thing. How women see money is not how men see money.
no, it's not.
Okay? So when you say stuff 40 and 50,000 is not enough, I now have to think about two sides. I got to think about one side on how is this man budgeting the money, and two, how is this woman using the money?
Listen,
But that's not a
you know,
conversation. That's not a
right.
conversation that inevitably is talked about. when it comes down to
No, it's
how
not.
how money is seen. Where my thing is, if you're making 40 to 50,000, that man is making 40 to 50,000, and the woman is also making money. What is her salary? And if her salary is more so for her to get things for herself, what are you using the money for in the scope of how you're taking care of yourselves? Because y'all probably living over your means when it comes down, because 50,000, you can take care of yourself, be able to make the money that you need to be able to, pay for a house. If you do it right, you have to learn how to budget. That's the thing.
Yeah, you have to budget.
You have to. But the
I know
biggest
somebody
thing,
making less than that, and they have bought 2 houses. They're making less than 50. Matter of fact, they're making less than 50. They bought 2 houses. They had two cars for them and their spouse, and they have like 3 different accounts. They have an emergency savings. They have something else. Then they have a savings for their family. When I saw that, I was like, that was motivation for me, because at that time I was making well over what this person was making, and I hadn't done all that. So when I saw that behavior, even for myself, and this is a come to life moment for me, that was a come to life moment for me, because I was like, if this person can do it, oh, I can do this. There's no reason why I can't do this. So in moments like that, I feel like when Kevin Samuels did touch on things like that and did really help somebody make a difference in their life, it was worth the while. But I just don't like how it always happens. And that's just me, right? I mean, some people.
I think it gets to a point where and I do not excuse the narcissistic traits. I don't excuse that.
No, I agree.
I just think
don't
it
do that.
gets to a point where when it comes down to Kevin Samuels, when it came down to him, it now has already gotten to a point where you have too many women that will automatically place blame on men for their faults in life and no sense of accountability over anything that they have done. Let's be real about it. Foundationally, men create their value through what they do. Women are always pushed or forced to have intrinsic value that they are now pushing to the side, which is what? Being able to have children. You have a lot of women that are dropping out of wanting to have children, let alone wanting to have families. They become married to their career, which ends up pushing the narrative of them being like the men that they want to go for. Mm-hmm. But if you're the man you want to go for, what makes you think you're going to gain the man that you are? It's fucked up to say, but nobody's thinking of that. You have become the man that you say you deserve.
Yeah.
And both men and women are attracted to different things in their partner, in the person that they want to have as their mate.
Yeah.
So my thing is, like, when you exude certain behaviors that aren't necessarily helping you to get to things that you're now not really solidifying in your mind in what you truly want in life, but you're just skating over the aspect of trying to gain them in the way that they should be gained.
Mm-hmm.
Where when you skate over it, you're not going to attain it. To give an example, someone who considers themselves to be a boss chick, saying that they want to eventually, when they get married, to be able to submit to a man. You haven't learned how to submit. what makes you think it's automatically going to happen by finger snap once you end up placing yourself in one situation where you now believe that said choice man you decide to marry is going to reinforce you being that way, and you haven't done anything to reinforce a behavior? Then mind you, a lot of women intrinsically, especially in the United States, believe the word submit immediately goes back to slavery. A woman is a slave to a man. I mean, am I lying though? Am I lying?
No. You're not. I'm just laughing. No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I ain't gonna be no slave for my man. I'm gonna get all my own. I'm gonna, do for myself. Fine, you can do for yourself, but you have to understand, you doing for yourself in the ways that you are doing for yourself reinforces you being against the law of attraction.
Yeah, it's true. I remember that I think I'm naturally, and I didn't know I was, but I learned in my first real relationship, right, that I was and I think that my mother told me that. She was like, "Oh, Nelly, I didn't know that you were as domesticated as you are." I said, "Well," so that's something that I did not know I was, but I found out through other people telling me. Like my mother told me, and my sister came to visit me one weekend, and what ended up happening was that we were about to eat dinner, and I had cooked dinner, and when I set the table, I told my sister, I said, if it's okay, I'm gonna feed. I said, if it's okay with you, I'm gonna feed Jamel first. I said, I always feed him first. And so she said, no, that's fine, that's fine. I said, okay. So I gave him his plate first, and then we all, ate and stuff like that. And I took his plate and I washed everybody's dishes. Well, I took everybody's plate, but I washed, all the dishes. And then I forget what else I did. But anyway, after that weekend, after she came and stayed that weekend, this is my sister. One of my sisters told me. She said, I learned, and y'all, me and my sisters don't have these kind of talks. Okay, but whatever happened that weekend triggered talk, and it was something I appreciated, heard, observing, something that I kind of didn't observe, because to me it was almost like natural, because it was natural, just him and I in the house. Yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna cook and I'm gonna feed him for, it's nobody else there. But I had a choice to make when we had company. I could have chosen to feed, my niece first or me first, but I didn't. I still stuck to what I would normally do. And so she said to me before she left, she said, I learned a lot from you this weekend. She said, I really learned, she said, I like the way you talk to Jamel, and I liked how you, I think she said that she liked how I had given him his food first, and I had took his plate, and I I did some other stuff. But anyway, she said, I'm gonna try that when I go home with her and somebody and who she was with at at the time. Yeah. And I said, well, I felt like I did that because I was also with somebody who made me feel like they deserve that. Let me just say,
you could do that with him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I haven't done that with everybody, y'all. But in that, and it's true, I haven't done that with probably with almost nobody else I was with, maybe one other person, but to be that domesticated, I don't think it's a problem with that. I don't think it's a problem. Like, you'll find that there are women, and honestly, there are older women. Y'all, sometimes older women out here can get y'all caught up. Listen to them. Some of them got some good stuff going on up here, and they can give you great advice, and they can steer you in the right direction. Some of them are going to take you the opposite way. And sometimes your friends can take you the opposite way. I have learned as I got older, keep your relationship in your relationship. Okay, don't everything that goes on in your relationship don't gotta be told to everybody in the world. You need to keep it.
I'm gonna just say, I'm gonna say this because I'm glad you brought that up. Everybody don't believe that, which reinforces everybody putting their stuff out there when it comes down to their relationship, which now is making it a norm.
Yeah.
You know, like we have to look at the lowest common denominator. You know what I'm saying? We have to look at the weakest link to be able to understand what is the strong point we need to reach for. You know? Where when you have this frivolous, because you got, you know what, I would say a friend of ours, but I'm not going to bring up her name, but a friend or a former friend of mine, but you know, high school friend of ours that you know we went to high school with. Uh, it was one time I was having a conversation with her, and I'm not going to bring up her name. I'm bringing up her name after the episode, but it was a conversation I was having with her, and she was telling me about the bad dynamics of you know the relationship that she was in, what may have you, and you know her already having a child, you know, with going into a relationship with him. And you know my whole thing is I was just like, you know, I don't know if you know certain things you should be sharing with me or telling me, you know what I'm saying. And she was like, well, why do you say that? I said, well, because you don't know how he would react to you telling me these things. Where she says, and I quote, well, I'm telling you because more so I feel like any woman should be able to share whatever she wants to share in a relationship to be able to protect herself. And I thought about that. I thought about it. And I was like, well, do you believe he should believe the same thing when it comes down to him protecting himself from you? And she
Uh-huh.
and she was like, well, I didn't think of it that way. I said, well, that's the reason why I'm saying you probably should not share certain things with me because probably it's none of my business. You know,
Yeah.
it's probably none of my business. And it's something that you should be talking to him about in the scope of what issues you have with him.
That's a whole nother episode. That's a whole nother
I,
talking to the person you're with about issues with people that ain't got nothing to do with what's going on with the issue. It's already an issue. And um I just think personally I think that's a sign of immaturity. And it's a
it is.
sign because I don't feel like if you're not mature enough, if you're not if you're afraid, because in some cases, especially for women or men, because I have met men, I know a guy who is afraid to be in another relationship because this first one just he put all his heart and soul and body
He
into it,
hasn't
and
healed
the
yet.
woman broke his heart.
He hasn't healed yet to where he
No,
now
he's not.
he now understands his value in what he has to bring to the table. And whatever else happened, you know, in this previous relationship, I don't know. However, you know, the scope
And
of
he's very young. He's not.
oh,
He's not.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You know, young age, old age, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. The
Yeah.
aspect of you know understanding the mental health factors of being able to heal from trauma that you recently have gone through in a previous relationship, and then being able to move on with your life, let alone be able to attract someone else into your life that you know can add to your happiness. You know,
Yeah.
because a lot of people are looking to one another to give them happiness that they don't have.
Right. Yeah.
And that's a huge problem because
And yeah.
a lot of people are placing value, or a lot of people are believing that happiness either is from the perspective of how much money someone makes, what they can do with that money, or how good someone is able to have sex. And there's no value in any of that. All of that is characteristics of a person. It doesn't show their character.
What I always thought was like mind boggling. This is not what we were talking about, but it just made me think about it. When Kevin Samuels would talk about the unmarried women, do you know Kevin Samuels was divorced?
I'll put it like this. I don't think he. I don't. I mean, I'm not sure. I would have to look it up. I would say this. It more so from the perspective of what he was talking about. I don't think he was ever divorced. I believe he just was smart enough to believe the monopoly that is American marriage.
No, I think he was like divorced twice.
Oh, he was? Oh, okay. I don't know. I didn't know. I didn't
Oh
know.
yeah. I know he was divorced once for sure because he spoke kind of about it. You
Mm-hmm.
know, he did keep most of his stuff private.
Yeah.
But you would get like little inklings of it when he would talk about his ex-wife and things like that.
Yeah.
Um but I know he was divorced once for sure. I think it was 2 times. But I just think I don't know. I think that this was a good discussion. And I think that narcissistic behavior lives in more of us than we think.
Well, it
but
does.
I,
I
I, I
wanted,
do.
I wanted, and we probably going to take too much time, but I wanted to be able to also bring up Jada. I wanted to be able to
No,
bring
we
up Jada.
can. Go ahead, bring her
Yeah.
in.
So, um, let me ask you a question. Do you believe, foundationally, men's love currency, or what they would consider love from a woman currency, is them being able to have sex with a woman, being able to, you know, essentially that perspective. Most men would see them loving a woman or them gaining love from a woman is, them being able to actually have sex with a woman. Would you agree with that generally?
I agree with that because I've heard a man say it to me, not to me, but somebody who was telling me that he could not connect with the woman he liked because she would not have sex with him. And I said, well, why don't you just wait until she feels comfortable doing it? And what he said to me, he said, because I like her so much. He said, it's the only, he said, that's the only thing I can, that was the only way he felt like he could express himself
Mm.
fully to her was
Oh,
through having sex. So
okay.
that's why I would say, yeah, I do. For some men, I do. I don't think it's all, but I
It's
think for
not in
some,
totality, of course, but now
yeah.
I ask another question. Do you believe the one of the biggest forms of currency that a woman, believes when she is gaining love from a man is gaining a man's attention?
When she's gaining love from a man, gaining a
Gaining a
man's
man's attention.
attention,
Attention.
I I think that starts it. I don't think that would be. I think that's definitely a starter.
It is a starter,
I think
however, you can gain various forms of attention and various levels, or various frequencies.
yeah, you can, but I don't know if I'd say. I don't know if it warrants like love currents.
Hmm.
And I'm trying to figure out why I'm not in full agreement of it, but I don't attention. I don't
Well, let me.
because in my mind, eventually attention in my mind is temporary. It just is, and I say that because
Mhm.
it's. I don't think that a man just doesn't like you if he's not being attentive to you. To be quite honest, and to be attentive or to show you attention, I don't think just because he's not paying attention to you or giving you compliments, or I don't think that that means that he is not still being a supportive husband or he's still not being, he does not love you.
Here,
I just,
well, here,
you know,
and I agree with you saying it's a starter. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But when it comes down to, let's just say, the man end up only seeing sex as a means to be able to connect with their women, but they're very irresponsible with who they're having sex with. But then you also have a good amount of women who end up using the aspect of attention in various forms to be able to gain attention with no reciprocation of anything in return. Okay? Give an example, IG models. They have thousands of followers, right?
Hmm.
Now, let me talk about this. Everyone knows and everyone has gained information on the fact that Will to Jada for Jada was option number two. Will was a rebound. Who was number one to Jada?
Are you asking me? I'm sorry.
Do you know?
Tupac, I think it was.
Exactly.
But here's my.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Share.
Here's how I see Jada. I see Jada, but you said it because I've seen like the memes, and I've seen like the stuff come through my timeline. How can I put this in the best words possible? This is coming from me, like I guess a woman. I can't speak for all women, but I think I definitely don't. I think that Jada and Will should have just never.
I agree with you on that, probably for different
I
reasons.
just think that maybe he was one of those things where it was seasonal. He came into life with purpose, but I don't believe that they were ever meant to be married, joined in a union together for life. No,
I totally agree with you. Totally.
Yeah, I just don't think that. When it comes to Tupac and Jada, I think that even in that relationship, from the little I know, y'all who Tupac and Jada fans, don't be killing me because I'm just going off of what I see. I think Tupac loved Jada, right? And I think Jada loved Tupac, but not in the, I think it was one of them things where I like you, I like being around you. I think you're attractive, but I don't necessarily want your type. Does that make sense? That's how I saw it. How I saw it.
You think Jada did that to Tupac?
I think that's how she felt about it. Because I think I read or I saw somewhere that I forget why they didn't work out. I think he said that she just wanted to just be friends.
So you believe that Jada friend zoned Tupac?
I do, but I don't believe that she friend zoned him in a way to say that she really wanted to be his friend. Have you ever been in a situation where I think she really, really wanted him, but she didn't want like that thug life type? I don't think she wanted that whole. You understand what I'm saying?
I agree.
Then you got Will coming, total different type of man, total different,
clean cut,
right?
Yeah.
That's what I think. But I think in her heart of hearts that when she was with Will, did she let go of Tupac? Absolutely not, because that's what you want.
Well, she didn't let go of Tupac because she was talking. She was talking about Tupac to her kids. She was talking about Tupac to her kids, and Willow wrote a letter in reference to.
I saw it.
My thing is like if you think about the psychological, you talking to your daughter about.
But you should not be about a whole nother man.
About a whole nother man that is not her father.
That's disrespectful within itself. And that's just.
Like, we can go on. Where these daggone traits at?
No, yeah.
Like, I'll definitely say manipulative tactics of, rescue and retreat. Where you end up retreating to someone that obviously is young, doesn't understand everything that's going on, and then all of a sudden writes a letter in reference to what you've talked to that child about. Deny. The trait of denial.
Exploitative relationships is also a trait. I just saw that. Another
thing. I just don't.
Chronic. So this says, what is it? Chronic feelings of emptiness and boredom. When she was talking about, what is it, Alcina?
Yeah.
And they were at the red table talk.
She justified her behavior. She justified her.
I like how Will checked her and said, "Wait, let's not call it an entanglement. Let's call it what it is."
Yeah.
And he corrected her by doing that because she was just trying to. But it made me think, Will, it's kind of like training a dog, and I hate that. I'm not saying Jada's a dog, but I'm saying that no, I just had a dog. But I ain't relating everything to dogs at this moment in my life. But if you keep letting a dog do certain things all the time, they get used to doing it, and they think that that's okay.
Let's
And then you try to
be
correct them later. It's just like I don't think she
let's
got it real.
be
You should
let's
have looked at
be
it.
I'm not even gonna say we should be careful in saying that, but inevitably that's gonna be taken as, well, are you saying Will should have been controlling Jada? You know, are you
No,
saying that?
absolutely.
Obviously
That's
you're
not
not.
Will's nature. I don't know Will Smith, right? I'm not a celebrity, but Will Smith just doesn't give off that controlling, dominant
He doesn't give
type
all
of
the
nature.
control, but he also, let's be real about it, he has a very seething internal anger where it came out when it came
Well,
down to his
you would probably have it too if all that shit was going on in your
all that
house.
shit was going on in your house. Your wife literally created a platform to just air out dirty laundry for everybody. Mom's is a former, was it? She was on cocaine or crack. I forget. Jada's mom.
Yeah, she
She
was
was
a
on drugs.
former. I don't remember what her choice of drug was.
Nevertheless, you your mother almost reinforces your behavior. It's not healthy. It's like, nah, like what? And mind you, I believe Will took all of this, and Jada knew he would take all of this because from a very young age, Will had issues with his own father. Own father beating on his own mother. That's going to affect him in a certain way where inevitably he doesn't want to do anything that's going to be traumatizing to the woman that he is with. And Jada knows that. Which now places her in the disposition of, I'm gonna just be real about it, slinging him around like a fucking puppet on some strings. I don't think any man or woman should go through that.
They should not. No, they
You
should
know,
not do it.
I don't think, my thing is, it's like,
It's manipulative and it is.
it's like what? For me, when I see, for years, 4 years, and I'm gonna be honest about this, until about like 18, 19, 20, 21, until about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, right? I thought Will and Jada were I. You know what I'm saying? Those were one of the couples, just same as Denzel and his wife. You know what I'm saying? Or Sam Jackson and
I
his
never
wife.
thought about them until all this stuff came up. I just, for some reason, they were never on my whole. I knew they
But
were a couple, but I just never.
that's the thing. Will and Jada wasn't really on anybody's radar because they weren't being infamous about shit. You know, let's be real about it. Most white relationships in Hollywood. That's the infamy shit. That's their shit. You know what I'm saying? Not really us. Not really. Not unless it's an interracial relationship. Let's be real about it.
I heard
Nevertheless,
about T.I. and Tiny so much. I don't know.
well, you know what? That's a whole nother conversation we got to do in another episode, okay? Because, when it comes down to T.I. and allegations, you know what I'm saying? When it comes down to strip clubs and all that other crap. Yeah. Come on, T.I. Come on, bro. And I have a, special place in my heart for, me not liking T.I. because of the fact that they used to call me that motherfucker, you know what I'm saying, when I was in high school and college, and I hated that shit.
You did kind of look like him. You did kind of look. But now that you don't have no more hair,
I know.
When you had your haircut,
if I had my shortcut
in his younger years,
yeah,
you did.
Yeah, and I was just like, stop calling me that motherfucker. Like, you know what I'm saying? I couldn't stand that shit. Nevertheless, back to Jada. So, no, I'm gonna tell you the reason why. I couldn't stand it because of a crush that I had on somebody in high school that would always use the aspect of me wanting to dress like that motherfucker for her to be attracted to me. I can't make this shit.
Somebody to dress like Idris. Can you dress like Idris Elba, please? Or David Banner?
Like, what the fuck you talking about? Clothes are clothes, motherfucker. It's gonna wear on me like it wears on me. You know, like what? You know, like kind of bullshit. Mind you, it was, chick that friend zoned me, and I realized the best way to get out of the friend zone is when you start calling a woman who puts you in a friend zone your sister. I would do that shit all the time. Don't friend zone me. I will make you my sister. They don't like that shit because it now becomes like, well, you see me as your sister, but motherfucker, you friend zone me. So there is no more of you wanting to use me on the sideline as far as when you want to have me. Hell nah. You are sister to me now.
Oh my gosh.
Shit. Fucking, I ain't gonna bring her name up, but one of my exes did that shit to me, for years, and then we all of a sudden being together, then all of a sudden I realized it's probably the worst mistake of me being with her because of the fact that she was a big ass narcissist. But we ain't gonna bring up her name. Nevertheless, it is what it is. Shit happens, then you die. Alright, so back to Jada. Jada is on some, well, I do what I want to do, and I shouldn't be, there should be no repercussions for what I do. Where my thing is like, this is what is happening in modern society. They're for both, I would say more so for women, not saying that men, also are not in this dynamic, but men have more of an incentive for good behavior than women do. We have to behave in a certain way, when it comes down to making sure that we are positioned in good places. We position ourselves with a good woman. There's certain behaviors, that we have to exude to be able to get more out of life. Women don't have that incentive. They have to make that choice on their own without being incentivized to make the choice. Even though you have a good amount of women who do make the choice and wanting to actually have great character, doesn't mean that a modern woman has to.
I just think that Jada is like one of them ladies. How can you say it? She's the person that starts all the chaos and then it unfolds. And she doesn't take any rep for it. She just sit back and watch the shit unfold. And it falls on somebody else. It looks like it's falling on somebody else, but she's like the mastermind.
She's the mastermind. That's narcissism 101. My thing is, and I'm gonna just be real about it. And I've said it before. This is where maybe I shouldn't say it, but I'm gonna say it again. I don't care. Jada is messy. She's one of the messy chicks. Where my thing is like, you're messy to the point where you're willing to make sure your husband, when it comes down to acting certain violence, you're not going to back him up publicly. She did.
Married Tupac publicly. That's how I feel about it. I'm like, she went after Will for a reason. I mean, Will went after her, but what I see that Will went after her, but there is something behind that. She could have said, no, I'm not interested. She didn't say that. She knew exactly what she was. She knew that she had a man who was interested in her. She knew that she had a man that wanted her. I was watching a prostitute and pimp. I'm sorry, God.
But I know what you're about to talk about, but go ahead. Go ahead. I already know what you're about to talk about. Yeah.
Those are interesting. If you haven't watched it, watch it. I think it's like on Vlad TV or something like that.
Yeah.
But one thing that one of the questions that Vlad asked the pimp was, if you could give any advice to a pimp, what would it be? And he was like, go with the one who wants you. So In other words, only pick the girls to work for you, bring home the bacon that wants to work with you. And I said, that ain't the truest fucking
Go.
advice I ever heard in my
He
life.
said in full, go with the one that wants you, not the one that you want.
Right.
That's
I'm
what he
sorry, you're
said
right.
in
Oh,
full.
you did watch it.
I did watch it. I knew what you were talking about.
It was the best part of the whole episode. I was like,
Go
he
with the
didn't
one
say
that
the
want. Because let's be real about it. Most women do not respect men that covet them.
Yeah.
Most
Yeah.
women respect men that they have to play hard to get with.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's why the friend zone exists.
Yeah.
But also,
Yeah.
you have a good amount of women that will see the good nature in men and they will still friend zone them because they want them for later, because they realize maybe certain things when it comes down to their behaviors, they have fucked up behaviors, but they don't want to show that man their fucked up behaviors as of yet. But they're more than willing to do it with what we consider the bad boy.
Right.
You know, more than willing. Because inevitably, they can blame the bad boy for their actions because the bad boy did some bad shit that they know is coming.
Right.
Which is still a form of self-sabotage, which is also a narcissistic trait. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, I'm just, and this is gonna be my last note. Jada, and you know, I'm gonna be real about it. I don't like talking on celebrities. I really don't, because you know they do nothing for me. They don't at all. I really don't like talking on celebrities. But in the scope of how the slap that happened does affect the black community in certain ways, it did highlight, you know, the aspect of mental health, especially in the scope of, you know, Chris Rock, you know, going through bullying at a very young age, and then all of a sudden, because I'm gonna just be real about it. Will is not, you know, the aggressive dude, but he knew he could be aggressive with Chris because he knows Chris past,
Yeah.
and he knew that Chris wasn't going to do nothing.
That's what Steve Harvey said. You sure what Steve Harvey said? Steve Harvey said, I think Steve Harvey's entertaining. You know, sometimes he be on point too. Sometimes he be a little off, but
Yeah.
sometimes he do be on point. And he basically kind of went off and said, you know, it's much funnier, it's much more entertaining if you hear from him. But he's on his radio show. He was talking about the slap. He was like, you know that, you know, I don't know why. He said Will is a punk. He's just a punk. He said I don't know why he wants to slap Chris. He said he wouldn't have got on stage and slapped me. He he definitely wouldn't slap Cedric. And he was talking about all the kings of
Yeah,
comedy.
Kings
But
got all the
he said
kings of comedy.
he said
You
he
sir?
said he did because he knew he could do it, and he knew
Ooh.
he'd get away with it right then and there. He said that's why he did it. And he said you can't be doing it. You got to hear him talk about it. But and then he was like, you know, and, and Chris is smaller. Oh no, but it's true. A lot of what he said was very true. Now,
Yeah.
come on. It was like the big kid in the class picking on the small kid in the class knew he took the easiest route. But here's the thing:
He
I
took.
think
Yeah.
he did.
He
He
did.
took he took the easiest way out. I was like, you would have done that to somebody else. If you felt like there was some confrontation that was going to happen, these things would have went very differently.
If
But
it would have
here's what
been,
I think.
if it would have been Steve, if it would have been Bernie Mac, what?
I would have. Let me tell you something. I
Yo.
would have sold that. It would have sold it for somebody. I would have sold it.
Yo.
It's like, oh my God, this is awful. I'm like, come on.
And we
Will.
already
But
know.
I think that it was time and place, honestly. I think Will was ready to bust anyway, because he had all this stuff inside of him. I don't know if he talks to a therapist. I don't know if it works. I have no idea. But you can see how after that table talk, things just got different.
Yeah.
And it was all in the media. It was like there was no more privacy between him and his wife and his household. Y'all just out of control. Everybody's out of control. Jaden's doing, I don't know what he's doing. Okay. You got Willow out here doing her thing. You got Jada out here, she's got the strings and she's the puppeteer. She is the one that nobody is seeing doing things, but it is her show. Don't you see this happening behind? And I feel like he was just ready to explode. And at the time that Chris said what he said, Will thought, okay, this is the perfect time. Just go up there and do this. Because I have to get out this anger. And I'm going to just go ahead and do it right now.
And my thing is...
And that's what I feel.
I'm just like, come on, bro. Like, you... Even if in you doing that, you was being a bitch. Like, I'm going to just say it. Like, even in you picking on Chris Rock specifically. Now, mind you, when it came down, I'm going to just be real about it. When it came down to the joke...
Chris Rock is almost 70, isn't he? I think he's older than Will. I'm like, he could have really hurt Chris Rock. He did not punch him, but he could have really
both of them are in their 50s.
Okay. I thought Chris Rock was older.
Both of them are in their 50s. Chris is older than Will.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. Chris is 57. Will is 53. Okay. So my thing is, it's like, you knew you would be able to get away with it because you know Chris, where you don't know Steve, you don't know Bernie Mac, you don't know DL Hughley. You know what I'm saying? Said, mind you.
Let me tell you something. I don't even think that Monique would have let him. I don't even think they would have let him. I was like, come on, Will, that's not fair. You can't go around doing that.
Both DL Hughley and Steve Harvey are Qs. Like, Qs. Right?
Yeah.
Said is a Sigma.
Oh, I didn't know he was
Yep.
Ricky.
You see what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck?
I couldn't with the whole thing. I was like, oh.
Like, no, like, it's just, I'm gonna be real about it. Like,
and that's humiliating. It's humiliating for Chris. You just slapped him. This man has a family.
It's humiliating, but it's more humiliating now for Will, because now also Will really, and I'm gonna be real about it, to some degree he has to look over his shoulder.
No, he does.
He fucked with the wrong family.
Yeah, because they have came out and said that they are not gonna. They're just not holding back.
Yeah, they're not holding back. Fucking was it Tony Rock? Tony Rock was like, you know what? Fuck
Tony
that.
Rock said, "I'm not even famous for real." He was like, "I don't give a shit." He said that on something. He said, "I'm not really a celebrity, y'all, so I don't care."
No.
And I'm like, oh
no, Tony Rock said on one of his specials, or comedy special that he did, he said, this whole year for my specials, anywhere I go, I'm talking about Pac.
Oh yeah, he did say that.
Where it's just like, damn. Like, Will, you created tension with a whole family that love one another. You fucked up. Yeah. You fucked up because you didn't pick the right one. You didn't pick the right woman. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I hate to say it that way, but it is what it is. He did not
pick the right woman. He did not take, I would even say he did not take his alpha position. That's what I would say. Because even if he had picked her, he did not. Will is not the alpha in his relationship, and we all see that. We all saw that.
And I don't like the whole alpha, beta shit.
Maybe not alpha, but he's not the leader. He's not the one.
I would say leader more so, because, and the reason why is because the whole alpha beta thing is, talking about essentially wolves. And a lot of people, end up using that in the scope of talking about relationships because they don't realize it goes back to the dominant submissive dynamic, which most people don't like anyway. Where most relationships should be about complementarity. But a lot of people don't even understand that because a lot of people won't acknowledge their weaknesses and strengths that they can balance out with their significant other if their significant other were also transparent like them.
Yeah.
But
I think in some ways you have to be submissive. I'm not saying like
I agree.
Speed and do everything, but come on now, you got to do. You got to.
What
There's got to be some
what
submissive
works?
things that you have to do.
What works foundationally when it comes down to being able to build a family in this type of world? What works foundationally to be able to build a healthy, prosperous marriage? What is healthy? And I'm not for any of the women who end up watching this episode, who are career women, what may have you, I'm not talking about you. You leave. You leave the episode. My thing is, we know man being provider protector. We know woman being a nurturer and caretaker. We know this stuff, but it goes back to the dynamic of, well, no woman should have to. It's still now women's choice. Women still have the choice to do that. Choice. Yeah. So you're going to also, as a woman, say a woman can have the choice of wanting to be in the house? Who are you? Who the fuck are you to say that? You know what I'm saying? Where you got a lot of women who end up impeding other women from their own happiness. Not saying that every woman has to choose that, but also saying that women should not have that as a choice is bullshit. Because you have women who want to choose that. And they want to choose it in a healthy dynamic. Let them make that choice. If we're talking about true equality here, baseline, don't ostracize women because they've made the choice to be a housewife. That was their choice. And maybe it's something that they believe that they're good at. With whoever they're with. You got men out here who choose to be house husbands. You got men out here who choose to be house husbands.
And I was going to say that, and they get those households get a lot of flack from those people who don't believe that should be happening. And I don't agree. I'm like, it's
whack.
Whatever works for you works for you.
You know what the biggest issue? You know what the biggest issue when it comes down to the house husband dynamic is? You have a lot of people that believe that men are too much of natural predators to where if they're a house husband that they would be preying on their own children. That's what I often hear when it comes down to that dynamic, where it's just like, you wanted equality. You wanted the sense of men to be able to do things that women could do and women be able to do things that men could do. But then when it happens, you fucking complain. It's like you're just searching for shit to complain about, which is pessimism. By definition, it's pessimism.
I just think I would not be objective to if I was in a relationship and we agreed that, let's just say we were both working and maybe it made sense for one of us to not work, to do whatever, to take care of the kids, to take care of the house. It makes it less stressful for both of you. If it's that's called balance, y'all.
Yeah,
it's called balance your household. And whether it's you or your husband and you, to me personally, it doesn't matter. I have no problem going to work every single day, bringing home the bacon, and I come home and I don't have to worry about homework or kids or dinner or the house or paying the bills. I'm bringing home the money, but I don't have to worry about all the other stuff. I can come home and chill out because everything is taken care of. Whereas if you're working, if you have a two-person household and both y'all are working, whether you make good money or not, you're coming home ain't shit done. You know why? Because you've been at work all day long.
Not
Nothing is done.
unless you have caretakers or have someone
Yeah,
at the
that.
home to be able to
Unless you can
take,
afford that.
and
Right.
most Americans only see that as a luxury, whereas in African countries that's a standard. You know what I'm saying? Why do I say that? Standard wise, once you have a family, you end up having somebody who's, cook, caretaker, and then you have someone who's there for security when it comes down to the compound that you live on, your home. And that's a normal thing.
Yeah.
And it's not seen as it's only based on luxury. It's only based on people who are over a certain financial bracket. No. It's family that's needing to take care of everything, but they have to now have others help them take care of everything because they got a fucking family. You know? Where it depends on culture too. Where here culturally, most people see that as a luxury. Most people who are at a certain financial bracket, when it comes down to being under $80,000 a year, are not going to have someone else that they don't know in their home to clean up their home. They're just not. We don't even trust anyone. We have a certain level of distrust of people, period, based on individualism, based on capitalism.
We should talk about that because I have agreeing and disagreeing feelings about it.
Okay.
But not now. I'm just
I mean, yeah. We ain't got to talk about now, but yeah. I mean, we go ahead and stop because we almost went 2 hours. So,
yeah, not too hard.
Okay. All right. Well, we just talked about a lot of stuff, and yeah. Uh, Nevertheless, Real Raw Exchange Podcast. I'm Frank. Y'all take it easy. Have a wonderful week. Bye bye.
Bye, y'all.